Welcome to the global WarWatch network. From drones falling out of the sky to missiles losing their way. The war in Ukraine is teaching the U.S. military some hard lessons about electronic jamming. But what exactly is America learning, and how could it change the future of war? Today, we're exploring the crucial role of the electromagnetic spectrum, or EMS, in modern conflict. We'll focus specifically on electronic jamming, its evolution in the Ukraine war, and, well, the profound implications for the U.S. military.
And it's so important because, the EMS is this unseen battleground. It's foundational and underpins pretty much all modern military operations.
Right.
The U.S. Department of Defense, the DoD, relies incredibly heavily on it. We're talking communications, navigation, radar, even things like directed energy weapons.
So it's everywhere, even if we don't see it.
Exactly. And that's why the DoD launched its 2020 Electromagnetic Spectrum Superiority Strategies Implementation Plan, the EMSSI plan. It's all about ensuring what they call freedom of action within the EMS. It signals just how vital this has become.
Freedom of action in an unseen realm.
Okay, so we hear EMS thrown around a lot. For those of us not deep in physics, what is the electromagnetic spectrum, fundamentally? Can you break that down simply?
Sure, absolutely. Think of the EMS as just the entire range, the whole spectrum of electromagnetic radiation. It includes everything. Radio waves, microwaves like in your kitchen infrared for night vision, the visible light we actually see, UV, X-rays, gamma rays.
Wow, okay, so it's vast.
It is. It's all around us constantly. Most of it is totally invisible. But almost all our modern tech, military or civilian, uses it to communicate and sense things. Without it, things would, well, grind to a halt.
So how does the military, specifically the DoD, harness this invisible ocean beyond just basic comms?
Oh, it's woven into the fabric of operations. Across every domain, air, land, sea, space, cyberspace, radar needs it to track targets.
Right.
Soldiers need it for secure comms over distances. GPS relies on it for navigation. Those advanced directed energy weapons we mentioned, they use it too.
So it's indispensable. Absolutely. People like Navy Admiral Charles Richard have been very clear.
Yeah.
Achieving EMS superiority isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's a must. It's paramount, especially against adversaries who also get its importance. Losing control, that puts you at a massive disadvantage.
It really sounds like controlling the spectrum is the new high ground. So if the EMS is the domain, then electronic warfare, EW, must be the fight to control it. What does that actually cover?
That's a great way to put it. EW is the manipulation, the exploitation of the EMS for military advantage. It's a broad field, not just one thing.
Yeah.
It includes electronic surveillance, sort of listening in on enemy electronic signals, reconnaissance, gathering intelligence. Then you have electronic countermeasures, actively trying to disrupt enemy systems, and electronic attacks, which can even disable or destroy targets using directed energy. It's this constant back and forth, offense and defense, in that invisible space.
And before you can disrupt or defend, you've got to know what the other side is doing, right? Intelligence must be foundational here. What are the key pieces for EW intel?
Precisely. Information is everything in the EMS. The big one is signals intelligence, SIGINT. That's collecting and analyzing all kinds of electronic signals, radio, radar, any electronic fingerprint the enemy leaves. You're trying to figure out their intentions, their capabilities, what they're up to.
Listening in electronically.
Exactly. Then there are subsets. Communications intelligence, COMINT, focuses just on communication signals, radio traffic, phone calls, data links. It helps map out their networks, their command structure.
Got it.
And electronic intelligence, ELINT, deals with the non-communication stuff. Think radar signals from air defense, missile guidance signals, even emissions from enemy jammers. ELINT helps identify and locate their electronic gear, giving you a picture of their electronic setup.
So SIGINT, COMINT, ELINT, they all fit together to build this picture of the invisible battlefield.
Perfectly put. They combine to give you that crucial threat assessment, that situational awareness. It's the bedrock. Without that intelligence, any EW effort is essentially flying blind. You need it to make smart, fast decisions.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and honestly a bit concerning based on recent events. Electronic jamming. We hear about it constantly from Ukraine. What is it exactly? How does this invisible weapon actually work?
Right. Jamming is basically deliberate interference. You're using powerful radio signals to overwhelm or confuse an enemy's radar or radio systems, stopping them from working properly.
Like shouting over someone.
That's a good analogy. Or imagine trying to listen to a faint radio station and someone nearby blasts static on the exact same frequency. Your radio gets drowned out. Jamming does that electronically, bombarding the target receiver with so much energy it can't pick up the real signal. You know when your car radio cuts out under power lines?
Yeah, that static buzz?
That's electromagnetic interference. Jamming is doing that on purpose, weaponizing it.
Okay, so it's about overwhelming the target. And I gather there are different ways to jam, different modes, depending on what you know about the enemy.
That's right. Strategy depends on intel. One mode is spot jamming. This is very focused. You concentrate a lot of power onto one specific channel or frequency. It's super effective if you know exactly what frequency the enemy is using.
Like pinpointing their channel.
Exactly. Then there's barrage jamming. This spreads the power out over several frequencies or channels at once. It's less powerful on any single frequency, but it's useful if you don't know the exact frequencies, or you want to disrupt a whole range of potential communications in a specific band.
Got it. Spot for precision, barrage for wider coverage, and jamming can also be categorized by how obvious it is. That sounds like it could mess with people's heads, too.
Oh, absolutely. It could be a psychological tool. There's obvious jamming. It's easy to detect. Operators might hear weird noises, random static, strange tones, clicks, sparks, even recorded sounds like seagulls sometimes. It makes it clear. You're being jammed.
Annoying, but you know what's happening.
Right. But then there's subtle jamming. This is way more insidious. With this, there's no obvious noise. The equipment looks like it's working fine, but it just can't receive friendly signals. It's called squelch capture.
Squelch capture.
Yeah. Imagine a soldier trying to radio for backup.
Yeah.
The radio power's on, no static, seems okay, but nothing, no response. They might think the radio's broken, or maybe their allies are just out of range. They don't realize they're being actively silenced.
Wow. That could be catastrophic. You wouldn't know if it's equipment failure or an invisible attack.
Exactly. It creates confusion, doubt, delays, critical delays. It weaponizes uncertainty.
That's genuinely unnerving, and I assume these tactics are just getting more sophisticated, harder to counter.
Without a doubt. Jamming tech is constantly evolving. Modern systems adapt. They learn. They use clever tricks to be more effective and harder to spot, especially these subtle methods. It's a non-stop cat-and-mouse game, pushing innovation on both sides.
Let's focus on that cat-and-mouse game in Ukraine. It really seems like a live-fire laboratory for EW. What did Russia bring to the fight initially, and how well did it work in those early stages?
Well, Russia came in with a known EW arsenal. Systems like the Krasuka-4 for radars, Zhitel for satellite signals, Layer 3 for comms jamming, deployed via drone. On paper, it looked formidable. But initially, their performance was, well, disappointing for them. Brian Clark at the Hudson Institute called them large, unwieldy, vehicle-borne systems. They weren't agile, not fast enough, and maybe not numerous enough. They didn't effectively shut down Ukrainian air defenses or communications like they probably hoped.
So it hindered their initial push, like towards Kiev.
Significantly, they did manage some jamming of military satellite links, but crucially, things like cellular networks and the internet mostly stayed up. Ukrainian forces could still communicate, coordinate. That was a big factor early on.
Fascinating. But war forces adaptation. Russia didn't just stick with what wasn't working, did they? What changed? How did their EW evolve?
No, they definitely learned and adapted. They shifted tactics. They started deploying smaller, more mobile devices. Hundreds of them, apparently, ranging from simple GPS jammers up to more complex systems for suppressing radar.
And these smaller systems were more effective.
Markedly so. Systems like Zhitel and Pole-21 proved particularly effective, especially at jamming GPS and other satellite links near the front lines. And the impact? Huge. These systems disable Ukrainian drones vital for spotting artillery targets, recon, kamikaze attacks.
And it affects more than just drones, right? What about those precision weapons provided by NATO?
Critically, yes. Things like the US-made JDAM bombs rely heavily on GPS. A Zhitel unit can reportedly jam GPS within a 30-kilometer radius.
Yeah.
That's enough to make a $1 million smart bomb go completely off course. It degrades that precision edge.
That's a massive impact.
It is. Colonel Ivan Pavlenko from the Ukrainian General Staff put it starkly. He said, "This is a war of technologies," and warned, if you're losing in electronic warfare, your forces will turn to a 19th century army.
Wow. A 19th century army. Meaning, without controlling the spectrum, you lose your eyes, ears, coordination.
Pretty much. You're blind, deaf, and can't use your advanced tech effectively. You become incredibly vulnerable if the other side does control the spectrum.
That really drives home the stakes. So, what does this intense EW battle in Ukraine mean for the U.S. military? What are the big lessons America's taking away from this?
The lessons are hitting home hard. One major one is just how cost-effective jamming can be. Trying to shoot down every single drone with expensive missiles, that stuff, but jamming them, forcing them to land or crash. That's seen as the most cost-effective way to neutralize many unmanned systems.
So EW as a cheaper counter-drone measure. What else?
Agility and speed. The conflict just hammers home that you need to adapt your spectrum operations incredibly quickly to succeed against a peer adversary. You have to react, counter, and evolve your own tactics constantly.
It sounds relentless.
It is. And the consequences of failure are severe. Colonel Josh Kozlov from the 350th Spectrum Warfare Wing said it plainly. Not having control of spectrum leads to fatalities, leads to getting killed. It's not abstract. It's about survival on the battlefield.
That puts a very stark human cost on this invisible domain. So, given this urgency, what's the U.S. Army actually doing about it? Are we seeing real action, real investment?
Oh, yes. There's a major push. Assistant Secretary of the Army Doug Bush stated, the Army is fundamentally reinvesting and rebuilding our tactical EW capability. That capability had, frankly, diminished somewhat over the last couple of decades. What's happening in Ukraine is adding to that urgency.
So what does that reinvestment look like, specific programs?
It does. They're accelerating the deployment of jammers that were already in development. For example, Lockheed Martin is integrating the TLS-BCT, that's Terrestrial Layer System Brigade Combat Team, onto Stryker vehicles. The plan is to put it on armored multipurpose vehicles, too. This gives brigades EW, SIGINT, and cyber capabilities.
Bringing EW power down to the brigade level?
Exactly. And Lockheed's also working on prototypes for TLS-EAB, that's echelons above brigade, for wider area effects. It's all part of fulfilling that DoD vision from the EMSSI plan. Freedom of action in the electromagnetic spectrum at the time, place, and parameters of our choosing. Admiral Richard even talked about needing to accept more operational risk to push innovation faster in this area.
So a real push to regain the edge. But it's not just about jamming, right? It's also about counter-jamming. What are both sides doing to protect themselves? And what does this constant back and forth mean for future wars?
Absolutely, it's a two-way street. Both Ukraine and Russia are constantly working on countermeasures. That involves things like reprogramming weapons on the fly to make them more resistant to interference.
Trying to harden the systems.
Right. And using techniques like frequency hopping, where the radio signal rapidly jumps between frequencies in a pattern the jammer can't easily follow. Or burst transmissions, sending data in quick, short bursts to minimize exposure. There's even talk of cognitive EW, using AI to adapt jamming and counter-jamming tactics in real time.
The AI arms race enters the spectrum.
Seems inevitable. And key tactic emerging is actively hunting the jammers. Before you launch that expensive GPS-guided bomb, your intel needs to know. Is the target area jammed? If yes, you might need to find and destroy the jammer first. Colonel Pavlenko stressed this. Find the jammer and destroy it, and only then use this weapon.
So the EW fight becomes the first step in many other operations.
Often, yes. It highlights that controlling the spectrum isn't just part of the battle anymore. It's often the prerequisite for success in other domains. Looking ahead, this means EW will be even more integrated into multi-domain operations. Air, land, sea, space, cyber, all working together, dependent on spectrum control. The future is faster, more AI-driven, and absolutely reliant on dominating or at least surviving in the electromagnetic spectrum.
It really drives home that this invisible domain is as critical, maybe even more so now, than the visible battlefield. The ability to control those connections or deny them to the enemy seems paramount.
It's the ultimate advantage in a hyper-connected world. Who sees, who hears, who coordinates, versus who is left fighting blind and deaf.
Thank you for walking us through that. It's a complex but absolutely vital topic, and thank you for joining us for this discussion on the Global WarWatch Network.
My pleasure. Hopefully it sheds some light on this crucial, unseen aspect of modern conflict.
If you found this discussion valuable, please do like, share, and subscribe to the Global WarWatch Network. It helps us bring you more insights into the changing world of defense, and we really want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the future of electronic warfare? Share your comments below. You can also join the conversation on our social media channels. All the links are right there in the description. Thanks for tuning in.